Hi everybody, thanks for joining me again today for this landscape acrylic painting tutorial. This is requested by one of my patrons, so I want to thank you for your requests. I'm going through them one by one right now, and I hope you guys are enjoying them all. We're working on a black canvas today. It's 12 by 16, and I'm going to go over the colors quickly here and also list them below. White, sap green, cobalt blue, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre. I'm going to use a large blending brush just to create a light blue color for the background. So I'll take my cobalt blue and titanium white and just blend all around. This will be a nice backdrop and a really nice color for our light that will look nice with our yellow ochre and our burnt sienna. Okay, so without covering the whole canvas, I'm going to go over to more white now, and I'm going to create a triangle down in the center, pointy and narrower at the top of it. So this will be our little opening we have, and give us that perspective that we want, making it look farther away. So it gets smaller when it's farther away and larger in the foreground where it's closer to us. So I'm just going to fill this in lightly with my blue and my white again. Then I'm going to gradually start just tapping and kind of stippling in with my blending brush here to start creating some texture for the leaves that we have on either side. Okay, for my next step, I'm going to take straight titanium white and I'm going to make the highlights here a lot brighter. When working on a black canvas, you may need to add more and more highlights in order for where you want your light to be bright to really show up. So I'm just going to go over this really lightly and kind of give it this foggy, misty kind of a look and make it look like it's glowing in the center. I'll follow down below. Right down below here, just kind of pulling back and forth, sweeping side to side with my brush. And then I'll just scumble and make longer streaks with my brush down towards the foreground. Alright, so for our next step, I'm going to take a large flat brush, and you can use any brush that you want for this. We're just going to be taking our raw sienna or burnt sienna, sap green, and some of our cobalt blue. I'm going to take all three of those colors, mix them up to create a nice dark rich color other than black, but we will be adding a little bit of black later on. So I'm going to come in with some foliage shadow along the side here, along either side of the road. And then I'll be pulling up and down for some tree trunks. They're going to be skinny. They're going to be, some are going to be really thick. We're going to have a few big trees and lots of skinny ones. So don't worry about how your trees look. It really is just using the width of your brush and pulling down. If they're crooked, that's totally okay. I'm purposely making some of mine crooked. Trees go all sorts of ways, and you really can't go wrong with this, guys. This is super beginner friendly. It doesn't matter what level of painting or skill level you're at, you can all do this. So just have fun with it. And the ones that are going to be further away there in the center are going to be skinnier, but they're still going to go up to the top of the canvas. And that's why I like using a large flat brush like this, because I can create those wider trees when I turn my brush the other way to use the full width of it. And then I can turn it on its side and just use it to create skinnier ones and thinner looking trees. I've kind of got these ones on a slope. They're kind of turning in towards one another, creating more of a sort of a peak-like shape. And that also helps to create the mood and the perspective in this painting. You can go ahead and add a little bit more brown at times, or a little bit more green, a little bit more blue. So you just notice all of my tree trunks are kind of different tones. Some of them are lighter or darker, and that is a really nice way to paint your trees too, because you have all these different shades and tones going on, making your painting way more interesting. Okay, so the sidewalk on either side of the road is going to be covered with leaves, and I'm just going to come in now with the lines. So we're going to keep that same perspective, narrower towards the center and wider towards us. And I'm just using the same colors, the same sap green, burnt sienna, and cobalt blue. I'm going to start layering more and just using the end of my brush here to create all those skinny little branches. Some of them can be thicker. You can just push a little bit harder with your brush and drag your brush where you want them to be thicker and fuller. Okay, so it's time for my next layer, and I'm taking a fan brush and my yellow ochre. I'm going to take a little bit of titanium white with it, mix the two up on my brush, and I'm going to start tapping lightly in all the areas that I want to have some nice golden leaves. So just keep tapping and see how I'm kind of going to fit in between some of these areas here. I'm not worried if I'm going over top of the tree trunks. It's fine because we want to layer. We want to have some trees in the background and then some leaves in between the layers of trees. So we're going to be coming over top and covering up parts of these leaves with some black paint and some more burnt sienna eventually. So this is just kind of the mid stage, so don't freak out, guys. So just add them towards the center here as well. We're going to go right kind of in an arch with them, and any place that you want to add them. Of course, we're going to add some down below at the base of the trees here. And so when painting your leaves and adding your foliage to your trees, you can play around with some different colors. You can add some orange, whatever color you want your leaves to be. This is just what I thought would match nicely with the reference photo that was provided by my patron. And I really like, sorry, I just have to adjust my lighting a little bit here. I really like the way the yellow ochre looks against that cobalt blue. So I'm going to start adding a little bit of my burnt sienna along with my yellow ochre. That's also a really nice fall color for leaves. And I'll just keep going and adding little bits wherever I want, gradually starting to pick up some sap green and mixing that in with my yellow ochre and my burnt sienna as well. So we get a really kind of nice olive green color here. It's nice for the fall as well. And I'll just continue building this up. I'll start adding it down to the base of the trees where the sidewalk is, and working on building up all of those leaves that have fallen. Okay, so building up gradually all the leaves here, creating a textured layered look, leaves upon leaves, using my burnt sienna and yellow ochre, a little bit of white to highlight some of them. And then I'm going to come in with more of my green and my yellow ochre, a little bit of white, and I'll be adding some leaves and foliage to the right side and the base of some of the trees. Okay, after taking a little bit of sap green and going up some of the tree trunks and creating a few more, I'm going to go down towards the bottom now and start adding some more foliage. I'm going to switch over to a round mop brush. I think this will add a nice texture and just change it up a little bit so it's dry, and I'm going to tap it right into my burnt sienna and my yellow ochre. So just tap, tap, tap. You only have paint on the very end of your brush. That's the only part of the brush we want to be using for this. And just lightly go ahead and tap. You definitely don't want to be pulling around with your brush. All you want to do is create a texture. So we're using it like a stipple brush. So if you don't have a brush like this, you can definitely use a stipple brush. Okay, after adding a little bit more with my fan brush, a little bit of shadow contrast in there with some of my green and my burnt sienna, I'm going to switch over to my large flat brush again, and I'm going to take a combination of black and burnt sienna. So it's not straight pure black, it's always tinted. I like to tint my blacks with other colors, because you can see this deep kind of dark chocolate fudge color that I really like. I think this looks so nice with that cobalt blue and all the other colors. And I'm using more muted tones today than I normally do. I usually use a lot of bright, vivid neon pinks and reds and purples. Now, sometimes it's nice just to have more of a limited palette or softer tones, more muted like this. And this was nice and relaxing to work on. That being said, I did, after filming, go ahead and add, just for the fun of it, I did a filter over using some of my neon colors. I decided to start recording partway through, and I'm going to add the footage of that. There's a couple minutes of doing that in case you guys are curious to see what it would look like if you wanted to add some bright colors. So it's just optional for you guys, and just giving you guys another idea and alternative if you wanted to just kick it up a notch with your painting and make it a little bit brighter, or you can just leave it like this. So I'll give you guys a few options, and you can just look for that at the end of this video. But I'm going to continue to go over and layer these trees. I'm not going to cover up every single tree that I've done. I'm just adding. So this is more of the foreground, right? These trees are coming in over top and setting those leaves that we added back in the distance. So you can see what a difference it makes from looking at this left side where we've added these trees compared to the right side. It's very nice and rich, and we've got a really good contrast happening. So I'm going to continue over on the right side and just keep building up my trees, and then I'll start working on my light and shadow on the road, and where all those lines kind of just fall and crisscross. I'll be adding a little bit of light purple. I thought that would go nicely with the cobalt blue, and really nice with the yellow ochre as well. They're very complementary colors. So before I start with the shadows on the road, I'm just going to add a few trees way off in the distance, just little ones using my cobalt blue. There's a little bit of watered down black in my brush. My brush was a little bit dirty. That's why it doesn't look straight blue. So it's just a little bit dirtied. And then I'm going to start working on the light down here, pulling some white with my blue. And I'm just going to start very, very loosely coming in with lines. And don't psych yourselves out or stress yourselves out too much about how your shadows should look. Just break it down into lines. Just do lots of lines that get thicker and fuller towards the foreground. And they're going to go right across over those leaves. You can take a few minutes to dry off your painting beforehand if you want. That way you don't blend all the paint where you have your leaves together. But you can do it like this, or you can take the time to dry it off first and come back in after. Either way works. And I'm just using like watered down blue and black for my dark shadows, And then I'm going to come in for the sunlit areas with my white and my yellow ochre. Okay, so now it's time to come in, and I've got a Filbert brush I'm using. I thought it would be a little bit easier to get in between these lines, and I'm not being too careful about it. I'm being very loose, just a very loose style, free style of painting. It's much more enjoyable and it looks quite nice. It's almost got a kind of a loose, messy look to it. And the more I paint and the older I get, I'm kind of falling into that happy state of painting, and I feel like it's a lot looser. So if you want to paint something like a photograph, it's going to take a lot more concentration and it can be very frustrating, but I've just learned over the years to let go and not try to make everything line up perfectly, not make it look so straight and even, and I'm just a lot happier painting this way. And I hope that you guys get to a level or a stage of painting that you feel the same way, and hopefully you're getting a little bit motivated and inspired by watching me paint this way too, and that'll help you gain the confidence to just loosen up a little bit more and feel a little bit freer while you're painting. So I'm just going to come in very lightly here, tapping and dabbing again with that yellow ochre and white for some leaves and that sun just hitting in between all those shadows. I feel like this is just really inviting, and I love the photograph, and I really have been having a great time kind of just creating my own version of it. I'm not trying to make it look exactly like the photo. This is my interpretation. You guys can go from the photo at the beginning of this video if you want to try and make yours look exactly like the photo, by all means. And don't forget to share on my new Facebook group. It's a platform for you guys, my subscribers, my patrons, to show off your versions and interpretations from my tutorials. So I'll leave a link below for that. And I've got close to 300 members now. And I just started it about a week and a half ago, so it's growing every day, and we've got a really good community over there. I'm coming in with a little bit of green and yellow ochre now, dabbing in for some more foliage in between the trees. And then taking my liner brush, and I'm going to go into my black and my burnt sienna, some water, and just pull in some thinner branches. Okay, so what I want to do now is just bring in a little bit more light down here on the road, and I'm also going to be coming in between the trees and the branches and just tapping in little patches of lights, little pockets of light. It's so fun to do this. I love this style of painting. I've watched other artists do this, and normally you're supposed to paint the background first, but you really don't have to. Anything goes, and you'll see how neat this looks. So I'm just coming in with white and yellow ochre, Then I wash my brush out and I alternate to the blue, the cobalt blue and white. So more white than blue, just so that it really shows up against those background colors. It's darker than the original blue and white that I added at the beginning. And look, just you really get that light effect in there. I love the way this looks and it's really fun to do. So I've been starting to do this more and more in my landscape paintings, and I really recommend you guys give this a try. You can use a smaller brush, of course. You don't have to use a big fat Filbert brush like I'm using. And yeah, I'm going to just continue here building up these shadows. I am going to be adding another color, my Luminous warm yellow. So I will be using one of my neon colors that you guys will see. It's just like a really bright neon peachy color. It's really golden and adds such a nice glow and highlight and pop of color to all of the leaves in this painting. I think that's probably my favorite part, is when I added that, and you guys will see the beautiful glow it gives this painting after. So I've got a Wisp eventail fan brush right now. There's space is missing out of it. I bought it like that. It's a really cool brush, and there's so many lines so close together in the distance there, and I thought it would be really easy and effective to use this brush, just taking water, blue and white, and just pulling through, adding that. And then I'm going to come over and add some more where the leaves are. I'm not totally thrilled with my base coat for my leaves, so I'm going to sort of try to redo the right side a little bit. You guys don't have to do this. It kind of just needed a little bit more depth, so I'm coming in over top with my burnt sienna, and then I'm just going to redefine the shape and the angle of my line. I brought it over a bit too far for my liking towards the center, so I need to make the road a little bit wider. I came over too far with my sidewalk and my leaves area, so I'm just going to correct that, and I don't want to take that out of the video because I think you guys need to see. That's also a big part of learning, is how to correct your mistakes. So a lot of instructors leave that out of their videos, but I think that you're really missing out and losing out when you don't get to see that, because you need to learn how to fix your mistakes. It's really important, and it's vital with learning how to paint. And acrylic is really forgiving. You can get it off fairly quickly if it's not soaked into the canvas and fully dry yet, just by scumbling off with a little bit of water, wiping the excess paint off on a towel. And if it has completely dried, then it's fine, because you can paint right over it and cover it up. Okay, so just for the next few minutes, it's going to be pretty repetitive. I'm just going to be redefining, adding more highlights and more shadows and more to my tree trunks. So I'll let you guys watch this for a few minutes, and then I'm going to take my hair dryer and dry it off, and we'll go on to our next step. Alright, it's time for my favorite part now. I've got my liner brush, my Luminous Warm Yellow by Holbein. It's a neon color that I love very much and I use this quite often in my paintings. I'm taking a scoop of each white and the luminous yellow and I'm just going to dab and lay that paint on very thickly. Once this dries, you'll be able to feel a texture, so it's going to be almost like impasto. I really love this. It almost feels like you could reach out and touch those leaves and it feels so 3D, and the color just pops. I mean, look how nice it goes with that cobalt blue, and especially when I start adding a little bit of my light purple. So I'm going to continue adding little dabs of this wherever I feel like I need to have some more light and some more color. So up in the trees, behind the trees, the light in between all those shadows, and in between the trees, and of course on all the leaves. Okay, so it does look quite nice like this, but you know me and I love colors, so I couldn't help it. I couldn't resist. I needed to grab a little bit of my light purple. It's just a pastel purple, and I wanted to add a thin layer over part of the shadows and have little hints of it in parts of the tree trunk as well. So let me know what you guys think. You definitely don't have to add the purple. If you like it the way it was before, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and do this for a few minutes and then I'll be back for our next step. So you can see here I'm just adding little hints of it in the trees, and then I'm going to come over top of part of the tree trunks with a little bit of my black and my burnt sienna. I'm going to add just a little bit more of a shadow and detail in between the leaves and the road. I'll then dry off my painting and I'll add the finishing touches, which is going to be a dry brush of light blue with a little bit of white, possibly a little bit of my luminous yellow. Just going to do a really light filter, giving it a misty, foggy look and putting that perspective way back there, so making it look like those trees way off in the background there in the distance. It's going to even set them back farther, making it look a little bit more blurry and just overall a lot softer looking. So I'm going to come in first and just redefine my lines here a little bit more, adding another layer of my highlights in between all these shadows, and then we'll go ahead and do that. So as I'm drying this painting off and getting ready for the next step, I want to just add a little bit more light in between some of these trees, but I want it to dry off quickly, so I'm kind of doing two things at once here, multitasking. And it's drying off fairly quickly. I don't have a very thick coat of paint anywhere in the distance there. So it's all dry, and I'm going to take my Filbert brush. You can use any brush you want for this. A little bit of water with my white and a little bit of my luminous yellow. It's mostly white though. You don't even need to tint your white if you don't want to. And I'm just doing a very transparent, thin filter. And look how soft that looks. And it just gives it that far away look and kind of that foggy, mysterious look. I love adding this in my paintings, in my landscape paintings. It makes such a big difference because when you're working on a painting, not everything should be in full focus. You need to have some stuff that's more indistinct and in focus, and then you need to choose an area that's going to be a little bit blurry and softer. So that's very, very important information that you guys need to know. Not too many people talk about that with painting tutorials. It's something that kind of gets overlooked, but it's really, really important, and it's going to make your artwork stand out and make all the difference. So I'm just about finished this painting. I'll let you guys enjoy watching the last few minutes of this. I want to thank you very much for all of your requests, all your support on Patreon. I couldn't be doing this without you guys. You're allowing me to continue to do this full time, and I love what I do. I love to inspire, paint, and motivate all of you guys. It sure makes me happier, and it's helping me go through the tough times we're going through right now. So I want to wish you guys all the best. Have a wonderful day, happy painting, and I'll see you next time soon. Bye for now. Okay guys, like I promised, I couldn't resist and I just had to see how this would look if I added a light filter. Once this painting was completely dry, I took my neon yellow, my cool neon yellow, Luminous, and I also took my neon pink. At times I mixed them together to make a really beautiful bright coral color, and other times I use them individually on their own. So I'm just lightly tapping over some of the other colors on this painting, and I thought you guys might be interested in seeing this. This is some bonus footage for you guys. So I hope you enjoy this, and take care guys. See you next time.